we're going to go through the PowerPoint that was sent yesterday, or at least the way to access or use this PowerPoint to access the WebEx sessions. There is a slide, specifically this one here, the one I'm sharing on screen now, that has the embedded links to the WebEx. So each one of these sessions where you see here highlighted in blue is actually embedded with a hyperlink to each of the sessions. All you have to do is just click on the sessions and you should access them. If not, we're always sending on a daily basis a link to each of the WebEx sessions. Okay, so this PowerPoint is actually quite important if you guys want to know the links to each of these sessions. Remember, the participation is quite limited. It's limited to only the ones that have been invited to these sessions. If we share the link with others, then there will be a limitation of space for this WebEx session and you may be left out. Again, we're recording these sessions, so we're going to be sharing them after. But the access or these links to these WebEx links, these WebEx sessions should not be shared with other participants. Then again, some of you may also have issues with the roles and accessing the reports. So you have to ensure that you have the appropriate role to access these reports. And the reports are the ones that we have here. Some of you may not even see in the screen the reports that I'm displaying right now under DFS Property Management. So ensure if you've received the facts or not that you have at least the BI and the analytical role for BI 53, BI 54, BI 55 are the roles that you need, but BI 55 is the analytical user role that was required for this session. So to access the reports that we're going to share today, you should have that role. If you do not have that role, you still have time to request this role and be able to view the reports before the end of this week. If by any chance you cannot have the role before the end of this week or by tomorrow, at least I would recommend that you do follow these WebEx sessions, because we're going to look at the reports and see how they work. They're going to be recorded. So once you're finally granted with the access to these reports, you will be able to follow the instructions in practice. Anyway, as was mentioned in the VTC yesterday, it is much, much better and also easier for you to follow this WebEx session passively, meaning watching me use the reports and not doing it simultaneously, as you may miss some very important filtering options or sorting options or some of the capabilities of some of these reports because you're trying to do the same thing at the same time from your end. I hear some background noise. Remember to mute yourselves. I know you should be muted when you log in. I believe. Yes, okay. I got that noise out of the way. Remember, you're muted when you log in, but if you unmute yourself, then of course we'll be able to hear you. So I believe that was you, Ildefonso. You may have had some audio issues. If you do have a question, please write it in the chat unless you're able to solve those issues. All we heard was just background noise. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the chat quickly. Okay, so for Ildefonso, you're also mentioning that you cannot click on the link. I believe you're talking about the WebEx session link. So remember, we're sending an email with the link itself to the WebEx session. I believe not that many people had a problem with it. Okay. Yes, okay, fine. So we can get started. All right, very good. So I don't see any other emergencies. I see the poll is done as well. We went over some of the basics in terms of what the PowerPoint was for. If you're not receiving the attachments by any chance and you are on our list or believe you are on our list, you can email me. I know I have received a number of emails and phone calls of people who said they were on the list, but eventually were not. So you should only be receiving attachments and emails if you are on the list. And thank you, Cass, for joining us, by the way. If you ever want to intervene at any moment, just let me know or just speak up. Daniel, I've also seen you there. Thanks for joining us as well. And we will get started. Now, I believe we have quite a long list of participants here, 68 participants. So let's get started with report number 6, which is the one that you should have also received in your email. It's the one that we're looking at now, right? The write-off backlog for P&E. So we're going to take a look at this presentation today. And each one of these sessions is going to be broken down the same way. What we're first going to do is go over the KPIs for each of these reports, right? Why were these reports created for? Cass was mentioning something yesterday that is very important, and I want you all to understand that these reports, the ones that we're going to be covering, are reports that have been created for a specific purpose, and this is the purpose we're going to be reviewing today. Now, I know some of you have or have your own wish list of what a report can do. Eventually, more reports are coming and are in development, but the ones we're going to be sharing were created for a specific purpose, and that's the one we're going to be covering today. Hopefully, it suits your needs, and if it doesn't, you can also let us know, or if something has not been clear in terms of how the report works or what we're discussing, let us know as well. So first thing, and something that I want to cover before we even start looking at the reports themselves, is why these reports were created, correct? Well, eventually there's a business need for them. And report number 6, the one that we're looking at now, is created because there's a need to ensure that property and equipment items undergoing write-off processes are derecognized as close as possible to the event that triggers the derecognition. So mainly when we start accessing these reports and we start getting the data from these reports, these are the things we're going to be looking for. Okay, what are the needs of the business and how they're measured in the report? I know you guys have all this PowerPoint presentation. If not, I'm going over it now briefly. We're going to get into the report in a matter of minutes, so just bear with me while I go through these few slides. Okay, so these are the business needs that these reports cover. Second need, the derecognition process for P&E undergoing write-off must be completed within 30 days to ensure that there's no material implication in terms of asset valuation and reporting, giving the monthly depreciation expense calculation. Now, how are these needs measured? And this is what's going to help us understand the report that we're going to view, the Web Intelligence report we're going to view today. The net book value of P&E items undergoing write-off and not yet derecognized for a period longer than 30 days, expressed as a percentage of the net book value of all P&E items undergoing write-off. So what's clear is that this report is really analyzing what P&E items, right, have been derecognized and not yet derecognized for a period longer than 30 days. And that will be easy to evaluate once we see the report. But also, this is expressed as a percentage in net book value, a percentage that should be 0. If it's more than 0 is when we're going to have to take a look at this. The exercise that I have prepared in the report actually reflects or focuses on one of the missions that also has P&E items that have not been derecognized yet for 30 days and also have a net book value of over 0. And why is that important? Because the KPI, right, is the following, the one we see here at the bottom of our PPT here. The target for this KPI is at 0%. So eventually, if you're not at 0%, this is something you should be looking at. So remember, this report was created for this reason, and this is the KPI that it's measuring. And here's somebody's voice in the background. Is there a question? No? Okay. So if you don't ask a question right away, I'll just keep moving on. So I know we all have this PowerPoint, but I want you to remember why these reports are created and what they measure and what are their KPIs. So each one of these reports will have a PowerPoint like this one explaining this. Also, the job aids and where to find these job aids. These job aids are already published for each one of these reports. And although we're going to be focusing on maybe one of the versions of the reports, meaning maybe a web intelligence or maybe an analysis workspace, there's a report for each one of them. So the data that I have pulled out and is here in my second slide of my PowerPoint is taken directly from the job aid. The job aid is also very important because it also lets you know the enterprise roles you will need to access these reports, whether it's a web intelligence report, for example, this one here, BI 54, basic user, or BI 55, the analytical user, BI 56 for power users. So each one of these job aids will define the types of roles that you need to access and view these reports. I hear a background noise, so just bear with me 1 second while I mute the background sound here. If you are unmuted, please take a look and mute yourself. If not, I'll just take me some minutes to do so. Yes, hello? All right, thank you. Okay, so the job aids and where to find them. I believe this is quite simple for you already, but I'm going to show you quickly. The job aids themselves here, you should be very familiar with them, right under Supply Chain Performance Management, which is in itself under Source to Acquire. You have every single job aid for the reports that we're going to view and even some that we're not going to view. For example, for report 6, we have the job aid right here, and I'm just going to mark it. This is the one that we should be looking at today. If you want to have this report open while we're going through the WebEx session, do that as well. But remember to access this report, and while I'm there, I will also click on it and leave it open so we can access it later on. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Now this report, also the job aid, also lets you know what this report was created for, right? This report is intended to support the following KPI for DFS. Net book value percentage of P&E items awaiting approval for a period longer than 30 days. So it's quite clear why these reports were created and what they're measuring. The aim of the KPI is to help business to ensure that P&E items are undergoing write-off process are derecognized as close as possible to the event that triggers the derecognition. And this KPI is at 0% and tolerance rate at 10%. So remember that. So these two first slides cover basic information on why these reports were created and what you're going to be getting, what information you're going to be getting from them. So let's get into the first report and where to find it. So our first report here, for those of you who are not familiar with BI, and we can go directly into the system to see that as well. Right here, we see that this is what our list of reports look like, right here under public folders, Umoja BI, DFS Property Management. And our folders show right here on the right side. Those of you who have been to our reporting academies are quite familiar with this. And the report that we're looking for here is this one right here. What's important to understand is that this report is a web intelligence report, and we're going to see what that means. If you guys have watched the video recording, you should already understand that these are pre-formatted reports. They're official reports published by the UN, and they really give you little to no freedom as to how you can edit the layout of its results. Okay, so this is the report we're looking at today and where to find them as well. DFS Property Management, under Umoja BI, and under public folders here. Okay, we'll double click on the report, and this will load the prompt initially, the first initial prompt. For those of you who are not familiar with how the prompt works, I'm going to go basically through how this works. And this is what we call the prompt. I'm going to make it as big as I can so we can all follow. Okay, so basically the prompt works like in ECC when you're filling in fields to execute some data. So you type in a T code, and then eventually this T code takes you to a screen with their own fields that you have to enter the data you're searching for. And the results that you get from that data you enter are limited by the data you enter in these fields. So this works the same exact way. Whatever data we add to these fields will also limit the results that we get from it in our report. So we have to be careful with what we add here. The good thing about BI is that even once we execute this prompt, we are actually able to refresh the prompt and change the data that we've added to it. Let's see some of these fields and what they mean, right? There are basically 1, 2, 3, and 4 fields. You see that each time I click on one, the prompts start changing here. The fields of the prompts start changing. But some of them have a red arrow and some of them just have a green check mark. Those who have a red arrow mean that they're required, they're mandatory to fill in. So if we do not fill these in and we just fill in the green check marked ones, we will not be able to execute. And it's quite easy because you see the OK button will remain grayed out. So we definitely have to fill in the information here in this prompt. And now that information, and we'll go back to our PowerPoint here, is also defined in the PowerPoint of what each field means. The fiscal year period speaks for itself, but just in case, it is used to calculate the number of assets and their capitalized and net book values. Now, it is true that when you refresh these values, we'll see that in a minute, you will also see periods denoted by 13 through 16. And of course, we all know that a year has 12 months, but these are not utilized in Umoja SAP solution. So you should not select these periods when running your reports. So stick to from 1 through 12. That's for our first fiscal year period field or prompt field. Then the second one, where it says select, it gives you the pound sign, an X, or a simple empty prompt. Okay, this is also explained here. The pound sign is only for posted depreciation. If you select the X, it'll be those that are planned depreciation, and an empty prompt is for both posted and planned depreciation. So one of the first things you should do in this case is understand what you want to select, right? Posted depreciation, planned, or simply leave it empty to select both. And now one of the very important fields here is the reporting date field, which calculates the number of days since the write-off was initiated. And this, so you understand, does it 30 days from the date selected. So let's say I select today's date, right, which is July 10th. This means that from July 10th, 30 days back, it'll give you the amount of the resulting data will start building 30 days from today, from the reporting date that you have selected. Okay, so this will calculate the number of days since write-off was initiated, starting 30 days back. So now that we've taken a quick look at what these fields are, and of course the last but not least business area field here is simply your mission. That's why I did not add it to the PowerPoint presentation. Let's see how it actually works when we're adding data to this prompt. It's always better to see it live than to see it in a PowerPoint. So the fiscal year period, and this is the exercise also that we're going to follow, which is as well also here in your PowerPoint. The idea is to follow this exercise, and you can either practice this later on or when you're watching the video. In this case, I selected the budget period January 2018 to June 2018. And to do that, how do we select those years here? For those of you who are new to this, even though it may seem simple, I know it could be quite confusing if it's your first time. So we see there's no data in this box. So the fiscal year period is not something we can just simply type in, or we could, but may not get any results. So one of the first things we do here is to use this refresh button here at the top. We can simply click on it, and this will give us the data here as we see in the prompt. So all we did is just click on the refresh button and gave us all the data. And as you can see here, it starts all the way from 2015, 2016, 17, all the way to 18. Okay, there's a key next to this refresh value data, which says show hide key values. So let me click on that. What this will do is show you the values in a different way. You'll see now it doesn't make much of a difference, but in other things like business area, it'll be the difference between seeing just numbers and letters and actually seeing the name of your mission so you can recognize it. So let's select first the dates that we selected in the exercise, which I said was 2018, January. So you first click on it, and then you click on the arrow here for your starting value, and then you do the same for your end value, which is 12. 2018, well, too late, it was actually June. Okay, so here we go, and move it over to our end value. So right now we have populated some of the fields here in our prompt. And let me check the chat, because I believe some people are checking the chat here. Let's see. Okay, well, I hear some people say in the chat that I am muted and you can't hear me. Well, actually, I'm not muted, but everybody else can hear me. Can you just make sure can you confirm that? Sounds fine. Okay, perfect. I didn't think, I would imagine that by now my chat would have been on fire. Okay, yes, so it's fine. Those of you who are having some problems with audio, Sorry, we did give 15 minutes to work with audio issues at the beginning, so we can't really deal with that now. At least this is being recorded, and I'm just going to quickly write it here in the chat for everyone that is hearing me now to know that you can get the recording when we're done. Okay, and we go back to our information here. Okay, so let's say we have our fiscal period and this is how it works, right? I have been told by some of the colleagues that are working on the reports that your starting value is not that important, or it doesn't make much of a difference, and that the main key here date is the reporting date, as well as also in your fiscal year period date is the end value. But I have seen that by adding the correct start value and end value, you have less issues in terms of the way the report churns back the results, right? Sometimes you may have some numbers that don't coincide, or maybe a negative value. So be accurate with the data that you're adding in the starting value and the end value. Okay, we're going here to... Okay, can you please mute yourselves? If not, I'll do it myself here. Okay, perfect. Let's go to the second field, which is select, and here again, once again, you have no information at the top. So remember, click on the refresh button and the data will appear. Remember that the pound sign is for posted depreciation. So in this case, I'm going to select the posted depreciation as the exercise says. And you see, you've done something when the data appears here on your left side. So now we know we have a fiscal year period, and we also have something added in the posted depreciation here in the second field. We still have a third field to select. And of course, in this case, there's no data, no refresh button, but there is a calendar. So we can simply open that. And I suggest that you just select today's date. If we go through the job aid, which we can take a quick look at it once the data loads or while it loads, you'll see that it's what the job aid suggests as well. It's the reporting date as of today. And the business area in this case, I'm just going to leave it empty, but so you see if I click on the refresh values, we have all the business areas here selected. If I don't select any and I click on OK, the report will return information on all these business areas that, of course, fit into the budget period that I've added and those that have maybe posted depreciation. Here we can also see how the key works. If I click on the key, now you have the name of your mission and also the acronym, right, or what identifies it as well, the business area that identifies this mission, just by clicking on the key. So you see, you may not know your business area or you may know the mission, so that's a good way to do so. If I wanted to select just one, of course, I could just scroll up and down looking for my mission, or I could simply write it here at the bottom. Let's see how that works. For example, in this case, I can already see Unimid from here, but I'm going to write it down and click on Enter and see what the system returns. So you see the system will only return one result, which is Unimid, and also next to it, the acronym for the business area, since I clicked on the key that shows me the values. Now, in this case, it worked right away. I always suggest that when you type in the prompts, you do it in capital letters. Also, take a look here to your right where you see the goggles and sort of a database icon and the drop-down. If you click on the drop-down here, it's telling me, or I'm telling the system to search on database, not to match case or search in key. So in this case, it's not really exactly matching the case or searching for the key. And what the key means is the acronym here for the business area. So if I would have said maybe search in key, and I would have clicked on OK with Unimid, see, there would be no values. So you would believe that Unimid is not here in the report, and it actually is. So it's very important for you to select the right case here, whether it's match case, search in key. In this case, I'm not searching by key, I'm searching by text. So I could select match case, but be careful because right now all three are selected. So make sure that only one of them is selected in this case, like we see here. Now we only have a check mark in match case and also in search on database. Let's try now and see what happens. If I click on Enter with Unimid, oh, sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. But it's a good example. So let's say that the prompt loaded, and this is not what my intention was, and I would like to pull this prompt back up again, right? I made a mistake, and this is this is a good example because you can make a mistake right from the beginning. How do I make it pop up again and edit my data? Well, simple. There's a button here. See the refresh button? If I simply click on the refresh button, it'll bring up the prompt once again. And you see all the values I have added are there, except for the business area here at the end, which I did not add. Okay, so we were here, and right now we see that we could do the match case and write Unimid and simply click on enter. No value. So in this case, your best option is to simply let it search on database with the name itself here and click on OK and see if we have any results. If you have no values here, sometimes some things that you're looking for may work one way or may not work the other. So all you can do is just simply refresh the values and work on how this comes up here. And of course, now I'm going through some trouble here with the results in the business area. Okay, let me cancel that, and I'll refresh that once again. If you're running into trouble when you're trying to pull out some data or you're trying to refresh your prompt, there are many ways of doing it. You can do it the way I'm doing it until eventually you get some results. And now I'm not sure why this one is not giving me any results here. Let me see. Okay. Let me just close the report and open it again. All right, and in the meantime, while it loads, I'll check the chat. And still, some people are having some trouble hearing me. Okay, so now that we know how this works, we can go through this much faster. And in this case, I'm not going to add anything in the business area. I'm only going to go because that's what the exercise was for, and that way I can teach you how to. Okay, so it seems we're having problems with the report itself now because I can't even select a reporting fiscal year or period. Okay. Report was working just fine 2 minutes ago. Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, well, it seems I'm having some trouble with this report right now, and it seems like the prompt in the data is not loading with it, so I may just jump into the next one and see. Hopefully we have better luck with it later, because there seem to be no values here. So sorry about that. We'll jump into our next report first, which is report 18, and we'll see quickly how this one works. Even though it's a different type of report itself, it's an AWS, while the other one does not work. Let's see, Daniel, try with star. The thing is, the data is not even loading for this one right now. Okay. Okay, well, trying my best there. No, I'm not speaking for those of you who can't hear me. So I'm just going to skip to report 18. These things can happen. I'll check back later on to see if that one works. But let's stick to report 18, which focuses on the disposal backlog. And this is an AWS report. Hopefully this one loads and works better the first time around. So quickly to go over the business need, right, and what it does, what this report is for. It monitors timeliness and backlog of disposal activities, okay, and how this is done. It measures the ratio of outstanding written off serialized items that are pending disposal action, okay, for a period greater than 180 days. So when we take a look at this report, what we're going to be looking at is exactly that, right? The ratio of outstanding written off serialized items that are still pending disposal, and they're pending disposal for more than 180 days. Okay, the target for this KPI is set at 0% with 25% tolerance rate. Okay, and what we're looking at here, the scope is all serialized equipment approved for write-off for a period greater than 180 days. Quickly, also the job aid. Again, when the second slide, when you see here report intention job aid, this information is taken out directly from the job aid itself. So the report is intended to support the following KPI for DFS: disposal backlog excluding commercial sale and disposal backlog for commercial sale. Okay, both KPIs measure the ratio of outstanding written off equipment that are pending disposal for a period of over 180 days. Again, and the roles you will need to access these reports: BI 55 for analytical user and BI 56 for power user. All right, and again, some of the scope determination, which is quite important information, but I believe we can just jump in directly into this report, and hopefully this one will not give us any issues. And we can go back and forth with the PowerPoint to see some key information as well. And since we already talked about the prompt and how the prompt works, let's see first where this report is found. So we're looking at report 18, as you can see here on the screen, analysis workspace. And remember, there are more than one, right? There's another report 18 here, which is the web intelligence, but we're only going to be focusing on this one here, the analysis workspace. And this is report 18. So let's go to that one, and I'll close this window here. And here we go, analysis workspace, and we'll double click on this one. And we'll see how this one works differently from the web intelligence report we were trying to view before. Maximize the screen a little bit. Okay, not that much. Make this a little bigger. And here we go. Again, in this case, what we have here, 4 different fields. Well, sorry, 3 different fields with the input date, the business area, and the equipment type. Okay, and again, for this exercise, also, if you follow the PowerPoint that I've handed to you, there is also an exercise, right here that you can also practice. Now, these are instructions that I've added for myself, and these are things that we're going to be covering here, hopefully, if the report works fine. So what we're doing with this report and what we're trying to do here is to analyze outstanding written off serialized items pending disposal for a period greater than 180 days. Okay? And that's what we're going to do right now, adding the basic information to this prompt. So the input date, again, we'll select today. The business area, we can select just one, and here we go. So we know how this one works. The prompt before was simply a calendar that we just selected the date, and then here in the business area field, we see that the minute we click on this matchbox, as we did now, a window opens, and also, just as it did before, it displays the acronyms and also the mission names that we can search by. There's a lot more than we had before, so it's going to become more difficult to find it just by scrolling up and down. So again, one of the best suggestions here is to simply type it in. And in this case, we can type it in like this. And again, remember, if when you first perform a search, something doesn't work, always pay attention to what is selected here in the goggles. And before, we were looking at the report before, it was at the bottom. In our selection, this also has a drop down. And right now it's set as key, so it would only find the key and not the name, the text of the mission. So we could switch to that, to text, and try to work on that. See, the difference between the key, P015, and also selecting the text is this one. The text is Unimit, the key is P015. So it is there. We can select it. So we click on the checkbox, and we click on OK. And here's our business area. And then the equipment type as well. We also have a matchbox that we can click on. And this will also display the options. And actually, this defines both, right? If we're selecting the equipment type, we're selecting our assets. They're both equipment and assets, or simply here, others, which would mean not assets. And also, if we go back to our report here, I have explained it in this slide. If you see the equipment type, used to select fixed assets. If we select assets, equipment not fixed assets would be the others option, or simply all equipment, which would be both. Okay, so others, not fixed assets, assets for the fixed assets, and both simply for all equipment without making a difference there. Okay, so in this case, we can select both. And all our information is populated. As you can see now, there's a green check mark in all the fields, nothing's red, and the OK button is also available for me. So I can click on it and launch my report. Now, the things we're spending time today on, for example, explaining what I've just explained with the matchboxes, how to search, these are things that tomorrow we won't spend time on. As we move on through the sessions, we're going to go quicker and quicker into the reports and seeing different things. So somehow every session will be a learning, let's say, experience for the reports. We're not going to be spending 15 minutes every time we log in or use a prompt or add data to a prompt. Okay, this is just the first day, and I know some of you have not been to our reporting academy, if not the majority of you, and this is not easy to know how the prompt works or the matchbox works or how to search for something during the prompt. So we're going to spend some time on that today, on the basics of how to use these reports. Okay, so the report has loaded. And for those of you who are new to BI or have not been to one of our workshops, I want to go through some fields first before we get started. So you can see here what fields are important. We do have some fields here on the left. You can see a lot of different data that loads on one screen. That for those of you who have already seen this, it's quite simple. But for those of you who have not, this could look like a lot of information coming at once. Okay, we also have this field here and this one here. So these are the sections I want you to focus on. We've executed a prompt with a certain amount of data in it, and now this data is displayed here. Okay, we have a number of numbers here, percentages, but it's quite difficult to understand here at first glance. So let's first start separating things by columns, as we see here in our layout. We have our columns, which of course are what is displayed here on this side, and we have our rows, which is what is displayed here on the left side, which covers the business area or business description for P015 and Unimit. And we also have background. Now, we may get into that one later, but background is everything that you tell the system to filter without having to display it here. So it's still happening, or it's still important to your report. It's just not being viewed in your report or displayed in your report. Those things that will be displayed are those that you add in your columns and those that you add in your rows. Now, the information that is by default displayed, you have not selected it. It's simply displayed there. This report was created like that because, again, it was created for a purpose. And this purpose is automatically displayed here in this report. Now, an analysis workspace, what you can do is still play around with the information. And that's where this field comes in here. Data field, and where we see measures, business area description, disposal category. You can add these bits of information. And let me get out of there. Here, if I click on the expansion button here for business area, I could still add the business area information to my report. I can add the disposal category information to my report by simply dragging and dropping this information. Now, it's a shame we couldn't see the Web Intelligence report. We'll get to it later. Hopefully it works better. But in the analysis workspace, you can add more information to what is actually displayed or initially displayed in your report. So if you can see all the fields I'm expanding here to my left are fields that I can drag here into rows, or if you want to, into columns, but we'll get into that later, and edit the result of your report here. Right now, what this report is displaying is two things. In our rows, the business area and the business area description. So we see that the business area is displayed here by the acronym here, P015, and the business area description by the name of the mission. So they're both displaying the same information. So we don't really need to have these two pieces of information here that are just repeating themselves. But we'll get to that later as to how we can get this out of the way. And here in columns, what we have is two different things, and somehow this is different from other reports we've seen in the Reporting Academy, and it's that it's combining two things. It's combining key figures, which for you to understand, the key figures are here with this icon here with the yellow writing at the bottom that displays the digits. So these will be always digits and numbers. For example, as you see here, 8 or 100% or 0, 1. So the key figures will always represent numbers. And then you have above it the disposal category, which is under columns here. Usually this type of database or information, let's say in this category, with this icon here, should be under rows. But in this case, it's already displayed directly under columns. And what it has done is it has separated the disposal category, backlog excluding commercial sale, and backlog on commercial sale. It has done that, measuring the key figures. Now let's click on it. If you double click on any of these fields, as I'm going to do now for disposal category, you will see the screen loads now and shows you that in disposal category, the options that are being selected or the options that are available for disposal category. In this case, we have backlog excluding commercial sale and backlog on commercial sale, and they're both selected. If I uncheck one of these, then this information will disappear from our result here. If you want to see how that happens, simply unclick on one of the backlog on commercial sale and click on OK. And now when the screen loads once again, it'll only be displaying one disposal category, which is excluding commercial sale. You see how that has changed here. I can go back and add it once again, and this is how we filter and unfilter information in an AWS, very basically. So you see that action-reaction, that action that I took had a reaction in how the report or data is displayed later on. Now you can choose to have it displayed like this, or you can simply drag this disposal category to this section on the rows, and you'll see how that changes. But before we do that, I'm going to get rid of some of the information that I have here, business area description, because I don't want to have the same information repeated twice here in my report. So to do that, and this is where the background field comes in handy, you can simply drag business area to the background area, as I've done right now. And when you drop it there, you see how the report processes, and now the business area is still there. And it's still affecting my report. If I filter here, let's say I have 15 different business areas, and I filter this and I bring it down to only one business area, I will also be affecting my data on the side here. So I still have my business area, which is Unimid, and its business area description. So now I know that business area is the same one here. I could actually even get rid of this completely because my information is exactly the same here as it is here. If you double click on business area, you can then see the type of information I'm looking at. As you can see, there's only one business area here. If by any chance you would like to analyze more than one business area at a time, you cannot do that from here because you have already added the data in a prompt. Just like in ECC, if you missed a date, or if you wrote a date like 1st of December to 25th December, but then you want to search for something that has been done in September, you would have to go back and re-execute this prompt. So we can do this just so you see how this affects the report as a whole. Right now we only have one business area. But let's say I wanted to add another business area because I want to play around with my report. Instead of only having Unimid, I want to have Unimid and another mission. To go back to your prompt in an AWS report, you have to come to this section here, the top one that is called Data. And you see where it says Prompt. You can just click on this button, and this will reload your prompt with all the data you had previously. And all you would have to do is, again, click on the matchbox for business area and select a new business area of your liking or your choosing. So in this case, I'm going to make it easy since I just want you to see the difference, and I'll select Unami in this case and say OK. And now we'll have two business areas. And when I click on OK, the data that was displayed before will now change. See, now we have two business areas, Unami and Unamid. And if I double click on business areas we were looking at before, now I'll have the two business areas displayed. If you want one or the other, you can do so and select them from here. So it's really up to you. You can add more information at the beginning in a prompt to have a bigger display of data, or you can go little by little later on in the report itself. So in this case, I can uncheck and click on OK. And now we see that the only area displayed is Unamid. Okay, so since I've been talking for a while, I'm looking at the chat. I don't see anyone reacting to the chat here. Does anyone have a question, or have I explained something too fast? Now remember, I'll go back to the Web Intelligence report we previously saw, but as it wasn't working well, I have decided to just jump into the AWS report, the analysis workspace. Any question? Okay, phenomenal. Thank you, Kidan. I see no one else. All right, perfect. So I'll keep going. Now, sorry for those of you who have been to a reporting academy. This is information you're already familiar with, but a lot of the attendees have not. And of course, the aim of these WebEx sessions is to explain to you how to use these reports and also tell you what these reports were created for and what they measure. So that's what's important here. So let's see. In the case of Unamid, for example, this is where I want to go back to the origin of our exercise, which is to see for Unamid, right? We're looking at the backlog, excluding commercial sale, backlog on commercial sales, simply for Unamid, right? And you see how this is displayed here. If I took, for example, the disposal category here, and instead of having it under my columns, I dragged it under my rows, you'll see how my report also changes in display. And now let me drag here. You can also drag a bit the fields and make them larger so you're able to read. So right now this becomes quite easy for me to understand. Unamid, business area, disposal categories divided into two. So I know I have two disposal categories here represented. Backlog, excluding commercial sale, or on commercial sale. So you see how you can also play around with the report and edit it as you wish to view your results. The data is still exactly the same, it's just displayed differently. And then simply by dragging and dropping one field from one section to another, I could go and put it right back to that one. In my case, I rather see the information the way it is now. So this is the way it's displayed. Actually, I don't even need to have Unamid here displayed, as I know that since I filtered my business area only for Unamid, the only mission that is displayed here is Unamid. So the less information you have here, the better. So I can always just drag this to the background, or I could simply get rid of it because the only information I'm seeing is already here filtered in business area. So you see now Unamid has disappeared, and now all I have is a disposal category. If you double click on disposal category, you can see the types of disposal category that are being displayed, and if there were any more disposal categories to select from. Okay, so this is basically how you can manage your layout. I hear some background noise. Does anybody want to speak up? Okay, so if you don't, I can just mute you directly because I can hear a lot of feedback and background noise when there's somebody or a group of people that every time you unmute yourselves, all I hear is feedback noise and a bunch of background noise there. So I'm just muting you guys. Please let me know in the chat if you're having some issues. Okay, so yes, get some questions in the chat. We're going to be looking at that right away. So basically, we were working on the drag and drops, also how to view the filters and how to play around with these reports. Okay, so basically, since that has been done, let me go back to my PowerPoint presentation to see what else I'm supposed to do here. So in this case, I was using Unifill, but we worked with Unimid, and we also worked with the filters, right, to just select one mission or another. So this first part of our exercise would be done. Okay, but instead of Unifill, now we're looking at Unimid. Now it says here type of disposal category. And I say here to myself a reminder of auto update and what this means. So what does the auto update mean? And then also look at the field type of disposal category. So let's go back to our report here. Auto update, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a very good tool to use in the mission, especially when you have low connectivity. And what this does, if you see it here at the top, if I click on this button, which is auto update, you see how the rest of my screen here has gone darker, right? If I click on it again, the light comes back. Click on it once again, it's dark. Once it's dark, it means that it freezes the data, or it freezes the data updates. So whatever changes I make here in my columns, in my rows, in my background, or whatever it is that I add, and we'll see how I can add information from here to the rows or to my columns, will not be displayed automatically in my layout, because I have somehow frozen the auto update, right? The update of itself in the report. So right now, whatever it is that I do will not affect the change here. And that works very well when your connectivity is quite low. So in my exercise, I told myself here, disposal category, type of disposal category, and auto update. Okay, so where's the disposal category? Right here. Okay, so we want to know the type of disposal category. We have it here. Very good. And the auto update. So we have that information here. Now the next thing I want to know is type of disposal method. Okay, so let's see where the type of disposal method is. Remember, you have more data here on the side that is probably not being used in your report. So we see here disposal category, disposal method. Now one thing that is very important, instead of just dragging and dropping the data directly, make sure it doesn't have a plus sign, or make sure that if it does have a plus sign, just click on the plus sign and select the option that does not have the expansion icon next to it, or the plus sign next to it. And you drag just that to your report. Now you see I drag disposal method, but nothing is changing in my report because right now it's frozen. Okay, in the disposal method, if you select that and right-click on your mouse, you also see that you have other options. You can filter as well. We did that before by simply double-clicking on disposal method. You can sort, you can add totals or show the totals, which in this case seem to already be shown by default. You can also display as, in this case you only have an option, which is the key, or you can play around with other options like move after, before, or simply remove. So we have disposal method. If I click on the auto update now, you'll see how it's going to process the new data I have just added. And we have here disposal method, but we only have the key information, and already the totals at the bottom here automatically displayed. And that happened as soon as I dragged disposal method. If I right-click on disposal method and go to totals and hide those totals, you should have these results disappear. But still, I have a total result here that comes from my first displayed, let's say, disposal category data. So if you want to get rid of all the totals, in this case, you should go to the first one and downward, right? Hiding the totals, because this first one will always display the totals for everything, let's say, for the total approved items, backlog under 180 days, over 180 days. And as you go on down to the other options, what you're doing is showing the totals of subtotals by disposal method, or by commercial sale or non-commercial sale. So the totals they are displaying depend on which one is at the top, which one is at the bottom, and as you go down, the totals will be displayed differently. If you want to see what I'm talking about, if I display the totals once again, and I go for the first one, disposal category, the totals that I will see reflect the grand total, 9 total approved items. For each disposal method, I don't know the totals, right? I know because there's only the numbers here, but the total result is at the bottom. If I do the totals for disposal method, what the system will reflect, and let's see if I can select it, what the system will reflect now is the subtotals by disposal method, and you'll see how that changes. Same. So here we go. And now what we have is for these 2 disposal methods that belong to the backlog excluding commercial sale, the result is 8, while for this one, the result is 1. So you see, somehow we have subtotaled this based on the total result we added at the beginning. So first one, total result, second one, subtotals, and so on. If we add more information here, the totals I add to would keep on being from the columns that come later on and not the first ones. All right, so we can remove the totals for now, since I don't want so many numbers to be displayed. And we're going to work on the next part, which is, for example, the disposal method that is displayed here. We may not understand this disposal method by looking at the acronym, but if you look here on the side, you have disposal method short description. So always look to your left side of this section here with data to see what suits your needs best. So maybe the method here is not efficient for you, or the person you want to show this report to, but the disposal method short description is. As you can see here, and let's make this a bit smaller as well, you can see that the disposal method here has a text to it. That's why it's the short description. So we know that E0049 stands for destruction disposal method, E0050 donation disposal method, and so on. So right now, maybe we don't even need this disposal method column that we have here. All you need to do if you don't need something is just drag it out of your rows and let go, and that will take the data out of your report. And now you will only have left the disposal category and the disposal method. So you see how you can play around with this information, but still the key figures are still reflecting what the report was created for. Okay, which is the total approved items and the backlog under 180 days. This data has not changed. I have not changed the basic business area. It's still Unimid. All I'm doing is adding information here on the side. And as you can see, you can do the same for the equipment number. If you would like to view the equipment number, you can do the same thing with the main asset number if you would like to see that one as well. Even the notification number. You also have here the review approved date. So you have more data that you can simply drag and drop as you wish and see how the report changes. I'm going to go back to my guide or exercise here to see what else I have shown, and I'm going to check my chat quickly. Okay, so I may get to that question in a bit, but I think that we're asking here, is it possible to know under which section are the 8 items? Okay, you mean section in terms of mission or in terms of storage location? Because remember, this report was not created for that, so it may not reflect the storage locations that you're looking for, if that's what you mean by section. Okay, so as an SAU. So if you see in this case, the data that you can retrieve is here. So if it's not here, you wouldn't be able to retrieve that data. So for example, you have the business area, everything we've seen, the main asset number, and even the plant itself here. But we really can't pull more data that is not reflected here because this report was not created for that. You would have to use a different report for that. Okay, so again, in my guide, what I was talking about here is the total approved items and show totals. We've seen that already. Quickly, we know the total approved items are reflected here, and the total results here that have been subtotaled by disposal method short description. Again, if you want to get rid of these totals, we can just hide the totals here. Okay, so right now, all we would have is the number of approved items. We don't know what items they are. If we want to know which ones they are, we just drag and drop from this data section here. And if we want to have a total number, in this case there are not many, but you'll see how there are some reports that have tons of data, and it's very difficult to add the total itself. So again, just for a simple total addition, remember, go to the first one, disposal category, to add the grand total here and click on Show Totals. And this will display the total approved items of 9 for Unimid. Okay, so these have been approved right now. And the backlog under 180 days is of 9, so the backlog percentage for under 180 days is 100%. So nothing seems to be over 180 days for Unimid for the time I've selected. Right? I actually put today's date and backlog excluding commercial sale or backlog on commercial sale. For both of these cases, independently of which disposal method I'm looking at, the total approved items are 9 and the backlog is under 180 days. There's nothing over 180 days. And so in this case, it's looking quite good. Also, the information. Yes? Okay, now I believe someone was going to speak up. All right, okay, thank you, Cass, yes. So it seems that the field SAU will be added, okay, I guess if I'm understanding correctly, it will be added as authorization group for SAU. So these reports then will still be adding fields. So thank you for your feedback. For those of you who are just writing through the chat or not speaking up directly, everything you're mentioning or everything you're suggesting or would like to see in the report, I think is very useful for this report. Also for, I know some of you are being audited and some other reports that are being required would be very beneficial for you if these reports could also add that information. So just so you know, the authorization group, or for the SAUs, this will be added to report 18, according to what Cass is informing me here. And can we add the tech ID number in this report? Okay, so we're creating our wish list here. Okay, so let's see, let's take a look at the type of equipment, right? Let's go back to our report and see adding the tech ID number in this report and if it would be useful in a way. So in the meantime, while we get that answer, the tech ID, I'm looking at the equipment number here, right? So if we wanted to add the equipment number to this report and see exactly which are these approved items that this report is showing me, I can simply drag equipment number to my report and also get it here. Okay, now my report is starting to get quite crowded. So I'll show you now a way to clean this up and what's necessary and what's not necessary in my report. So, okay, right now we have quite some information. Let me drag this so I can expand and see the type of equipment number. So once again, you have your equipment numbers here, not the tech ID numbers themselves. You do have the equipment numbers here, or you do have the equipment number description if instead of seeing the number, what you're interested in is seeing the description itself to understand what it is or the person you're showing this report to. So quickly, to do this without loading time, I can click on the auto update, get rid of my equipment number here, and add my equipment number description. Okay, I'll add that to my rows, and you see nothing is changing here. Now, before I continue and before I click on auto update, this report is looking quite crowded right now, and I really can't tell the difference, or I can't read the information easily just by looking at this report. So I think it's time that we start cleaning this up, and this is what takes me also to the next part of the exercise when I talk about keep members, right? Or how we can get rid of some information we're not interested in keeping here. So let's update this and see what it looks like now. Okay, and thanks, Cass, for the update. Okay, be careful. See what I'm doing now, and the box that is appearing on the bottom. If this happens to you when you're trying to expand the sections, what this will do, if the box shows underneath, is it will take the equipment number, and instead of displaying it on the rows, it'll drag it to columns, and it will change the view. So make sure that when you select, if you want to do what I'm doing, I'm just simply doing this so that you can read easier. Here you go. Now we have the number description, so we know exactly what is being destroyed, what is being donated, just by looking here at the equipment number description, and also divided by numbers here, the ones that are approved and what is actually approved. Okay, then quickly, the last things I wanted to go over with in this report in the AWS, as you see here in the PowerPoint, and now that I know, and thanks Cass for that heads up, that the other report seems to be working well now, is we have two more things that we can look at, and we also saw how we can reorganize our layout by choosing what drives the report. We'll see that now. The display as text and the keep members. So we're going to be looking at a couple of things now. So let's say that the only thing you're interested in right now is the destruction disposal method in only the backlog excluding commercial sale. So there's ways that you can just double click on the data here and unselect. For example, here you can just simply say, well, I'm not interested in the backlog on commercial sale for the disposal category, and you click on OK and just have that displayed. Or you can simply see now, so we only have the backlog excluding commercial sale, and the disposal method. You have two disposal methods, but let's say you're only interested in one. So you can filter the way I just showed now, or you can simply right-click right in that field. And you see when you have this information, you can just say Keep Members. And once you say Keep Members here, you'll see what happens. Everything will go except for what you have selected. So right now your report is only displaying what you're interested in seeing. Again, you still have your totals here. You can get rid of those by right-clicking and getting rid of the totals as well. And now you see exactly what you're looking at. So this is the information that you're probably interested in. And again, once your report starts only reflecting what you're interested in, you don't need to have that much information here displayed. So that's when you can start playing around with dragging, right, from the rows into the background and saying, okay, now I only want to see what I'm interested in, the destruction disposal method and the equipment that's there. And then that'll also be very beneficial when we want to add graphs or pie charts, which we'll see starting, if not tomorrow, we'll see on Wednesday. But the cleaner your report looks, the better it'll be for you. And also if you want to create some sort of charts or bar charts, it'll also be very, very useful. Now, if you see here, you can always just select one of these and drag it up or down. And this will change how your report is displayed. You'll see now the equipment number description will go right ahead of the disposal method short description. So now what's driving your report here is the equipment and not the method of disposal here. So simply by dragging and dropping one thing over another. So you see even more of an impact if now I dragged the disposal category right above and I put it right above here. That's going to be driving my report. So whatever is at the top is driving the rest of your report here. Okay, so we've gone over the basics in this report of how you can filter, how you can drag and drop, how you can add totals, the different ways of dragging information, the information that the report displays by default, the one that you can add on your own, how you can freeze the processing of the updates that you make here in the rows and the background. We've understood how the background works. So the information here is still driving your report, it's just not displayed. And as we go on through the sessions and we see different reports, we'll learn how we can manage and work around with these reports as well. But I want to quickly go back to the Web Intelligence report so we can take a look and also appreciate the difference between what these reports look like. I wanted to show you the AWS, the Analysis Workspace, which is the report we're looking at now, right, disposal backlog, as a second, but eventually it came out first. So I believe we can move on. That's all I wanted to cover for the report 18. Now remember, during the different sessions, we'll go in deeper into the report. So I ask you that if something is not clear, either you can ask me now to repeat something or simply watch the recording. Okay, but me, I'm going to go directly into the Web Intelligence report that wasn't working before because now it seems like it's working fine. Okay, quick question there on the chat, and I can answer that right away. What happens if you click remove? Very good question, so let's do that since this is a quick one. if instead of doing keep members, right, I right-click and I click remove, what I'm doing is I'm removing that one. So now you'll see the 12-inch, 16-inch should disappear from my list here. It's like we're filtering and we're unchecking that selection. See? Now we only have the computer desktop and standard. Okay, so that's what happens when you click keep, you're only keeping that one you're selecting. When you click remove, you're removing only that one you're selecting. Okay, very good. So I'm done with the analysis workspace report for disposal backlog, and I'm going to jump into the report we saw initially, Web Intelligence report. And now, since we already know about the prompts, I can go through the prompt data quickly. What I want you to see is how differently the layouts and the data is displayed from a Web Intelligence report to an analysis workspace. So let's make this bigger. And here we go again. So I'm going to refresh the values here. We have our dates. Very good. We'll select the first one here, January 2018, and we'll select June 2018, and here we go. So our data is populated. Second field, again, we refresh and select only the posted depreciation and the reporting date, which is today. I'll select today. And business area, as I said before, I'm not going to select any. I want them all to be displayed in my report. And I'll click on OK. And now we'll see the difference between an analysis workspace and a Web Intelligence report. Okay, where's the field for the barcode? Okay, that's one of the questions in the chat. Okay, well, and I guess you're talking about the report we were looking at before, report 18, the analysis workspace. There wasn't a field for the barcode itself. What we did have was an equipment number field. But I'm moving into, okay, thanks, Cass. It seems the tech ID and barcode will also be added to the report. So for those of you who are writing in the chat and asking things like the SAU, right, or the barcode or technical ID, these are fields that will be added to the report that we have just seen, report 18. Let's focus on the Web Intelligence report that is displayed now on the screen and what we can see here. So remember, when we did the recording, right, I went through the recording and sent it to you guys, and I went through things like these, right? So the difference is, first of all, this is an official report. So let's say it's validated or stamped, to the stamp of validation of the UN is on it. When you see the UN logo, this has already been officially accepted as a valid report. But you see already the result here is given to you, and it doesn't seem like you can do much more to what is already displayed. See, I can scroll up and down, and the report is defaulted, almost created, right, by someone else, and all you can simply do is look at the data that has been provided to you. Well, in a way it is, but you can also limit the amount of data that is being provided. So right now, based on the information I've selected in the prompt, this report, which is already defaulted, predetermined, pre-structured, is giving me this look, this view, right, business area column, and it's giving me the name of the mission and also the acronym for the business area, the number of assets over 30 days, percentage over 30 days, capitalized value over 30 days, net book value over 30 days, and so on. Now it starts again with now assets under 30 days. So it already displays all the data you need generally by mission or business area. See also the number of assets in total, the sum of the capitalized value, and the sum of net book value here. You can also see the totals at the bottom. It does that, and it separates that by business area. And we can then play around with what is displayed here. And I'll teach you that in 1 second. But before we look at that, this is the generic display of information with our total number of assets over 30 days. And then in our next tab, if you see here at the bottom, sometimes these Web Intelligence reports offer you more than one tab with different type of information or the way the information is displayed. So if you select detail, you will see that now it's offering us a more in-depth or a more detailed view, as it's called in the tab, of what we're looking at, right? So now it's still separated by business area, it's still separated by asset, but it's giving us the description of the asset right here. It's giving us the asset number by mission, the serial number, the IPSAS subclass, IPSAS class, and capitalized value, net book value per asset, as we see here, each individual asset. It also tells you the initiated for write-off date and days since write-off was initiated. As you can see here, 77, 64, 35. But if I scroll down, you can see that this report continues, and I get to the bottom, but that doesn't mean it's the end of it. If you see here at the left, it says page 1 of 11. Okay, page 1 of 11. What that means is that there are still 10 pages to go through. And to go through one page or another, if you see here the navigational menu, it says page 1 of 11. You can click on the one single arrow to go to the next page, or the arrow here to go to the last page. So you see, if I click on the next one, now I will be on page 2, here, 2 of 11, and so on. If I keep going, 3 of 11, or I can click on the last one to go simply to the last page. Now I know I'm not asking you to go one page at a time to find your mission. I'm just telling you how to navigate through this quickly until you understand that what is displayed here is not the entire report. Now I'm going to show you, because we still have some time, how you can go looking strictly for what you want to find, even in this tab here, which seems to have quite a bit of information, and maybe information that is very useful for you. Okay, so let's go first back to our summary and see here what is displayed and how we can edit that as well. And let me see here in the chat as well, is it possible to see the breakdown for unmiss or any of the missions in this report? Perfect. Well, since you're the one who asked that, I'm going to break it down for unmiss, if unmiss is here. In this case, yes, unmiss is here. So we do have unmiss, but now I only want to see unmiss, right? I don't want to see anything else. Very good. So this is how this works in terms of filtering in a web intelligence report. So I click here on the icon filter bar, and this displays here at the top. Well, I'm still not filtering anything. What this is going to show me is the amount of possible filters that this report has, and here it is. It tells me, do you want to filter by asset, business area, serial number, IPSAS class, and so on all the way to the bottom. In this case, I would select business area, and now you'll see the report seems to load again, and it gives me a filter bar only for business area. If I click on the drop down, it shows me all the business areas there, and all I have to do is look for the one you want, unmiss. See, and when I click on it, see, the report reduces only for unmiss. Again, this has a much easier way about it too. I could simply go back to my prompt and tell the report that I just want to see unmiss. All right, so if by any chance, I'm a bit afraid to go back to the prompt just in case it doesn't refresh there, but I'll show you. If by any chance here I can remove, or I'm seeing here all values again, right? We have all the values once again. You can simply click on the refresh button here. And when I click on the refresh button, I can go to business area and simply add the business area unmiss and select it, click on it, and only view unmiss as my business area. So you can do that right from the beginning, and then you don't have to filter. But what was interesting and why I did this was because now I was going to teach you guys how to filter from here directly. So let's say we are selecting unmiss here. And again, our report is only displaying unmiss. If I go on to my next tab, detail, see, the report is still displaying every other business area. So you would have to filter this tab as well. It's working independently. So again, you would click on filter, click on the bar here, and select business area. Once that one is displayed at the top, you drop down and you only select unmiss. And now you would only have the assets for unmiss here. See, we can scroll down and see if we still have more than one page, and no, page 1 of 1. So we know that what we're seeing here is what there is in total. So this would only be for unmiss. We don't have to go through the 11 pages of data that we were looking at before, simply by filtering. And you see, by filtering by business area. There are other ways of filtering or other things we can filter here. But of course, it could get quite complicated, and maybe we're better off just exporting this into Excel and filtering in an Excel sheet. But that is something we'll teach you how to do tomorrow. Right now, we're just working on the basic features of Web Intelligence and Analysis Workspace. So if we wanted to, let's say, bring it all back. I'm going to bring back all the business areas here, and I'm also going to do so for the summary. Okay, you see here at the top where it says business area all. If I select that, I'm bringing all of them back. If I want to remove the filter bar, I can just select the name here, remove at the bottom. And that will also remove the filter that I have applied. See, now the filter bar is still there, but there's nothing I'm filtering. Okay, so again, we have quite some information here. And if I drag up and down, right, or maybe even more on this one here where it says detail, if I drag down, I don't see any more my header, correct? This header where it says business area, asset, asset number. You can also freeze this header. So when you scroll down, it follows you around, right? If you see here at the top, it says freeze. You can just select here and say freeze left columns. We can do 1, 2, 3, 4. So we would be freezing up to 5 columns here, but that's not what we're interested in. We're interested in freezing the header. So see at the top, header row. If you select that and scroll down, the header stays with you all the way. So you always know what you're looking at. That's if you always want to work, of course, directly in the Web Intelligence report and not just export it to Excel. Okay, if you want to unfreeze it, you can just click and get it out of the way. See, the difference is that if I select, for example, freeze left column 1, if I moved over to my right, this column would be frozen here. In this case, we wouldn't be able to appreciate that. In the summary area, I believe that we can't do it either because it's not large enough for us to move. But if we wanted to freeze these columns here, all we'd have to do is select one of these numbers, column 1, column 2, column 3, 4, and so on. Okay, I'm going to check the chat. And okay, yes, you can export into Excel. That we'll get into tomorrow. Sorry for the technical issues we had at the beginning, but we'll get into that tomorrow. It was planned for tomorrow anyway. Today was just these basics to see the reports, to understand what the PowerPoint stand for. Hopefully it has suited your needs and you have understood, and I've gone at a speed that has been beneficial for you as well. I don't know if Cass, you want to add something in the last few minutes? If you want, I have one more poll with some questions that I would like to share with the participants in the meantime, just to see if you guys have followed me and understood what I was explaining. Again, remember, the sessions will go on, and also the difficulty will be incrementing. So if you've attended today's session, I recommend you come here tomorrow and also Thursday and Friday, as we're going to keep explaining more capabilities of these reports and what they offer. So today we haven't learned how to export it to Excel, but we will learn tomorrow. The same thing as scheduling a report. We can't cover it all in a simple hour and a half, so we decided to go step by step and incrementing the difficulty of the things we learn by report. Just like the Analysis Workspace, there's tons of things we can do with an Analysis Workspace. Today we only scratched the surface. All right, so let me initiate a new poll in the meantime, and if you guys have any question, you can just speak up or write in the chat while I'm looking for the poll and starting to set it up. All right, so I've initiated the final poll here. Please take some time to answer the questions. There are 6 questions, and they're all related to the things that we've been doing today. You should be able to answer each one of these based on what we've done. And if not, I'll take a look and see why not. But I believe we can all answer those. So hopefully we're all getting the right answers. We haven't covered that much, but in an hour and a half, I think we haven't done badly at all. Let's check the chat. And no one is speaking up, so I guess nobody either has a question or doesn't want to speak up, at least to ask it. So I'm going to review the chat quickly. Okay, good question here from Deependra. Which role, you say normally, should we get to run BI reports? Okay, normally. There's no real normal role. You would need a role for each type of report that you're trying to run, not only for the report itself being a web intelligence report or analysis workspace, but also the type of folder you're trying to access. So if you're trying to pull a report from finance or a report from let's say a service delivery, you would need a role that allows you to access the folder of finance or the folder of service delivery, or both if you need to access both. But then on top of that, you would also need to be either a basic user or an analytical user to be able to see web intelligence reports or analysis workspace reports. So again, this is all stated in the recording that was shared yesterday. I would recommend you watch this video because although it's basic, it covers these basic things like the type of role you need. So the access to one report and the access to a type of report being a web intelligence or analysis workspace depends on the role you get. So you can't really say a normal role. Okay, the role will actually limit your access. Okay, I'm checking the poll is going on fine, perfect. So in the meantime, while you guys are answering the poll, for those of you who are done or in progress or almost done here, I'm going back to show the job aid here. We were looking at the job aids. Let me make this a bit bigger. Okay, remember that these job aids are published, right? Today we have taken a look at 2 of these reports, right? We've seen report 6, and okay, I don't like that color right on top. Hold on. So report 6 here, and also report 18, the analysis workspace. Now, if you can see here, we also have a report 18 that is a web analysis, but take a look at these job aids. They're very, very useful, and they also explain, and we're going to click on one of them here right off. Here we go. And you see, if we're taking a look at job aid number 6 here, you guys can take a look at this and actually recommend you do once this WebEx session is over. Take a look at the objectives of this of the report you're looking at. They're well defined here, the same as the enterprise roles you will need to view the reports, whether it's web intelligence or an analysis workspace. Also, how to log in and where to find your report, how the prompts work. Right, the information that is in my PowerPoints that I share with you is extracted directly from here. So there is really no secret to the information and where you can get it. It explains, these job aids explain exactly how to manage these prompts and what each one of them displays and what not to do to get the wrong type of information. Okay, it does so by screenshots, very well explained for each one of these. Okay, and if you keep scrolling down, it'll show you what the report looks like, but even better so, aside from a couple of the exporting capabilities that you're all interested in knowing, maybe you want to take a look. We'll go through it tomorrow, but if you want to take a look at it today, it's very beneficial. And last but not least, what I consider to be quite important is an explanation on each of these sections, right? For example, the column section contains measures or key figures calculated. For example, assets over 30 days, and an explanation as to what this data means when you're looking at it. The percentage over 30 days, capitalized value. And it's very well explained not only for the key figures, but also for the rows. For example, here, the report header, main body, or here, as we can see, the business area, what that stands for, the capitalized value, what that stands for. Where is this information coming from? Just as the scope determination of the report. So I recommend you guys take a look at these for both of the reports. the report 18, the one we've seen today, and also report 6. There's a lot of very useful information, and if you may have skipped on anything during today's recorded session, you can watch it again, but I recommend you also go through the job aids to understand a bit more what you can get from these reports and what was the intention behind them. And I believe the poll should be done by now. Very good. Thank you all for answering these. And we'll take a quick look at the results. I'm checking the chat as well to see if there are any last-minute questions. Okay, so here we go. Very good. We have a good question here. Kazim, yes. So I believe what we're wanting is the answers to the questions. And yes, we're going to go through that one. And sorry, it planned out with the time, but I ran into some trouble at the beginning. Okay, so yes, let's take a look at the poll that we have just answered, correct? One of the first questions is, can I create and save a variant in a web intelligence report? Very good. And this one is one that I wanted to go through, and I wanted to go through right at the beginning of the report, but I did not, so sorry about that one. It's yes, okay, you can create a variant in the report. It's quite easy, and you can do that right when you launch a report the very first time. And we can go through that one tomorrow, as it doesn't take more than a minute or two to go through that, okay? But here, if you look at the screen that I'm loading once again, the prompt that I'm loading once again, if you see at the top where it says available prompt variants, right? You see a field and a drop down with some information if there were any variants. In this case, there are not, right? And how you can create it is right here. Tomorrow we can go through that right when we start. It's quite simple. Let's see question 2. Can I use the filter option in a web intelligence report? Very good. We should all know that answer. Actually, the majority of you answered that. It's a yes, right? Yes, you can use the filter in the web intelligence report. As we saw before, all you have to do is open the filter bar, as we see here, and in this case, I just closed it. And once you open it, you select what you want to filter. What we learned to filter was the business area. Very good. Can I refresh a prompt once it's been executed? Okay, that should have had a 100%. That answer is yes, right? As I just did now. The prompt has been executed with this data. All I have to do is refresh, change the data in my prompt, click on OK, and now the data will change. We did that mainly with the analysis workspace, and we saw how that worked very well. Okay, so the answer to number 3, can I refresh a prompt once it's been executed? Yes, you can. Just like you can do with a T code when you write in a field, right? After you've written a T code and you executed a report, you can always go back, change the data, and execute again. The analysis workspace reports allow users to format, edit the layout of the report. Well, yes, right? We saw that one as well. The analysis workspaces let you play around with the layout, right? How the report and the data is displayed. What is the auto update button for in the analysis workspace report? Very good. So that's the one we played around with as well. So the correct answer to that one is C. It freezes the report, right? So you can play around with updates and freeze the report as well. And it allows you to play around, drag, drop, filter, while the actual data in the report is not being changed. It's very useful for when you have low connectivity in the mission. And last but not least, and don't worry, I can also share these questions and the correct answers later on in the email that I'm going to send with the recorded session. And last but not least, number 6, does the data added in the prompt limit the data that can be added later with filters in an analysis workspace? Okay, so this one we also played around with, and we said yes, right? The data that we add to a prompt is telling the system this is the information I need. So when you tell the system I need ABC, when that data has been retrieved, you can't tell the system now give me Z, unless you go back to the prompt and tell the system you want also the data for Z. So you can add all the data you want in the initial prompt, like all the business areas that you want. Click on OK, and then you can filter down and narrow down the business areas. But what you can't do is tell the system you only want Unimid in the prompt as a business area and then try to look for Minuska. That does not work. Okay, but again, I'll share the questions and the answers with you in an email as well when we're done with the session, and we should be closing by now. I'm just going to check the chat. If you guys have any questions, please speak up, because in a couple of minutes I'll be closing down the session. So let's see. The last question here was can we have the answers for the test? Absolutely. So I'm going to email that back. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the session. Please join us tomorrow as we're going to get more in-depth into these reports. And yes, sorry for you guys that are in different time zones. It's difficult to suit all of you. That's why we're recording the sessions. Thank you for making an effort in being here. For those of you who are in Colombia, Unmagip, and other missions, sorry about the time zone factor. We're recording the sessions and we'll get these back to you. I'm not sure if, Cass, you want to say some last words, and especially focused on these two last reports, if you're still there. Okay, no, so you're having mic problems. Fine. So anything, we can keep in touch afterwards, and whatever it is that you would like to tell me, I can update the attendees. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and tomorrow we'll do some more. We'll go through some other reports and learn some very important reporting capabilities from this tool. Okay, so thank you all.